She came pounding on my door like it was her house. Her voice screeched through the wood before I even got to the handle. I opened it slow. She stood there with the arrogance only a HOA president could perfect. Arms crossed, printed screenshots shaking in her hand like holy scripture. "This is a clear violation," she snapped. "Airspace, privacy, neighborhood safety." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Behind me, the drone feed flickered silently on the monitor. House 113. The same place I've been watching for 3 weeks. Same silver van, same pattern of movement. A man unloading crates at 2 a.m. A teenage girl glimpsed at the window once. Too young, too scared, too silent. She threatened me with fines, legal action, board votes. I just stare at the photo in her hand, blurry, overexposed, but unmistakable. My drone, above the cul-de-sac, catching what nobody else cared to see. Close the door. Don't react. Let her feel in control. Inside, I turn back to my setup. 3 monitors. Encrypted footage. Timelines stitched across the bottom. GPS overlays. Names I hadn't spoken aloud in years. Elena. I opened the encrypted folder again. Case 762. My sister's file. Last seen walking home from school 10 years ago. Disappeared without a trace. No suspects. No clues. Only a silver van on a grainy ATM camera. The same model parked behind House 113. I clicked into the latest footage. Drone sweeping low past the oak trees, pausing over the backyard. Something new. A man unloading a heavy black duffel. He glanced up, didn't smile. Disappeared under the awning and inside. I zoomed in on the window. Grimy glass. Horizontal blinds. A flicker of movement. Then there. A hand. Small. Shaking. Pressed to the inside pane like it was trying to feel the outside world. Then yanked back into darkness. I stopped breathing. I replayed the clip again and again. It was real. Someone was inside, and she wasn't allowed to leave. I checked the drone's battery low. I sent it back to the launch pad. As it returned, I turned to my side monitor. Background check still loading. I opened another window, property history. The house had changed ownership 3 times in 2 years, each time through a different LLC, all linked to the same P.O. box out of state. This wasn't random. I heard tires outside. Looked through the blinds. Karen, HOA president, still out there. On her phone. Probably reporting me again. Good. Let them come. Back at the desk, the drone touched down. I removed the memory card. Slotted it in. Copied the footage to the backup drive and the off-site cloud. Redundancy saves lives. The screen blinked. New motion alert. Back at House 113. I threw the headset back on. Another van. Different plates. No windows. Parked in a driveway. Rear doors swung open. 2 men. They moved fast. Lifted something heavy. Covered. No struggle, but limp. No voices. Just a girl's sandal falling to the pavement and no one picking it up. I recorded everything. Clipped it. Timestamped it. Saved the plate. Cross-referenced it against national databases. No match, but I recognized the route. The van turned down a side street toward the unmonitored exit. I grabbed the emergency battery. Launched the drone again. Up and fast. Over the rooftops. The HOA rules didn't matter anymore. If I lost them now, she was gone. Just like Elena. The drone locked onto the van 3 blocks out. Still inside. I hover higher, zoomed in. The back door hadn't latched. It swung slightly. Inside, a blur of movement. A girl bound at the wrists. Eyes wide. She looked straight up, saw the drone. Her lips moved. Help me. Signal dropped. Feed froze. Battery critical. Drone descending automatically. I slammed the desk. Yelled into the silence. Outside footsteps. Someone running. Then glass shattered in the back room. I wasn't alone anymore. The window shattered before I could reach for anything. I spun around, heart pounding, scanning the dark. A shape darted past the kitchen, too fast to catch. My instincts kicked in. I hit the emergency power kill. plunging the monitors into black. No light, no silhouette. If they wanted to see me, they'd have to step into the dark first. Silence. Then the front door creaked. Not fully open, just enough. I crept forward, floorboard by floorboard, heart thudding against my ribs like it was trying to warn me. Whoever was in the house wasn't Karen. This wasn't a level madness. This was precision. They weren't there to argue. They were there to erase. I waited in the shadows by the hall closet. Slow breath, steady hands. A figure moved past the archway. Black hoodie, gloves, something in his hand. The crowbar caught the moonlight. He turned toward the hallway leading to my setup. I moved fast, grabbed the bat by the closet door. No words, just the thud of wood cracking bone and the sick grunt that followed. He hit the floor hard. Didn't move again. I yanked the mask off. Late 20s. No ID. No phone. Just a tattoo on his neck, a symbol I'd seen in a forum buried 3 pages deep, a trafficking mark, traced back to known rings operating out of port cities. They weren't trying to scare me. They were tying up loose ends. I called the only person who wouldn't brush it off. Rob, former local detective turned private security consultant. The kind of man who'd lost people too. The kind that stopped trusting red tape a long time ago. I told him everything. The girl, the vans, the footage, the break-in. He didn't ask for proof. He said 2 words, "I'm coming." By the time he arrived, I'd already scrubbed the drives, swapped the SIM card on the backup drone, and buried the footage in triple-layer encryption. The attacker was zip-tied, unconscious. Rob checked his pulse. Alive? For now. We dragged him to the garage. Rob looked at the drone footage. Eyes narrowed. "I've seen that van," he muttered. "Years ago." Case went cold. No bodies, just empty houses and missing teens. You're digging into something bigger than a sick neighbor. I knew that already. Rob told me to lay low. Let him handle the guy. But I couldn't. I pointed to the footage. That girl in the back of the van, she looked just like Elena when we were kids. It wasn't just surveillance anymore. It was personal. The next morning, the tripled down. Karen came marching across my lawn with 2 board members in tow. Clipboard. Printed photos. Fake smiles. She asked about the disturbance last night. The neighborhood was worried. She said there were rumors I had weapons, that I was running illegal surveillance operations. Her eyes kept scanning the house like she was searching for an excuse. I stayed calm. Told her nothing. She handed me a notice. Immediate hearing. Possible lawsuit. Drones were banned, effective immediately. Board approved. Final. I looked past her to house 113. A curtain moved again. Someone was still in there. I didn't have time for board meetings. I had a life to save. That night, I launched the second drone, stealth model, no lights, silent rotors. It flew low across the neighborhood, gliding through the night like a ghost with a purpose. It hovered outside the back window of house 113. Inside, the same girl. But she wasn't alone anymore. A second figure stood behind her, and he was holding a knife. The knife gleamed for half a second before the curtain snapped shut. I froze, hands still on the controller. The drone hovered outside the glass, capturing fragments through the slats, shadows pacing, one taller, one trembling, shrinking away with every step he took. I recorded it all. Then I pivoted the drone upward, scanned the roofline. Satellite dish. Infrared bleed. A second network was running from inside the house, unregistered. Hidden. They were watching the neighborhood just as much as I was watching them. I pulled the drone back and tapped into the house's smart grid. Spoofed signals, hidden servers, and rerouted traffic. Someone had invested real money into making House 113 invisible. That kind of gear wasn't for hobbyists. It was for people who needed to disappear others. Back inside, Rob paced like a war dog waiting for orders. He'd ID'd the guy we knocked out, minor charges, dropped cases, always bailed out within hours. But his contacts told him the real story. He was muscle, low-rank enforcer, courier for bigger names. Dangerous, but not the kind who plans. Just the kind who obeys. We had 24 hours before someone noticed he was missing. I told Rob about the knife, the girl, the hidden network. He didn't flinch. Said it was time to burn the safety net. We sent the footage to a private intel broker. Anonymous tip line. High clearance ex-agents. The kind of people who didn't wait for warrants. But it was risky. If word got out, the house could be cleared in hours. Evidence scrubbed. Girls gone. I didn't sleep that night. Just watched the live feed. Motionless girl. Same room. Same terror. Then something new. She wrote something on the fog glass. 3 numbers. 113. She didn't know I was already watching the house. She thought she was screaming into the void. But those numbers, it was a signal. A call for help from inside the dark. My throat closed. Elena used to do the same thing when we were kids. She'd trace her initials in car windows, messages only I would see. The drone caught movement again. Different man. Heavy set. But walked with the kind of confidence that meant he didn't worry about cops. He unlocked a hidden panel on the floor. Went down. Trapdoor. That was it. The proof. I hit record, backed up everything, and turned to Rob. We're going in. He didn't argue. But before we could leave, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No caller ID. I answered. A voice. Calm. Hold. Stop watching us, or we'll start watching you. Then the line went dead. Outside, headlights flooded my driveway. 3 black SUVs. Not police. They weren't coming to talk. They were coming to erase. The SUVs didn't idle. They rolled up like a silent avalanche. No sirens, no headlights once they turned the corner, just the hum of tires on pavement and the certainty of men who'd done this before. Doors open and sink. 3 men per vehicle. Tactical gear. No insignias. Black gloves. Radios muted. Rob stepped back from the window, jaw tight. We've got 90 seconds. He grabbed the duffel under the couch, his fallback kit. I'd seen it once before, years back, after a failed raid left 2 kids in a basement and 6 officers benched for life. He never forgave himself. And he never stayed unarmed again. I ripped the hard drives from the wall unit, shoved them in the fireproof case, and kicked open the crawlspace hatch beneath the laundry room. Tossed them in, covered it back. Rob set the back door alarm, an improvised perimeter trigger with a smoke charge. If they came from behind, we'd have seconds. No more. The front door didn't knock. It splintered. They moved in formation, 3 from the front, 2 from the rear. Flashlights cut across the walls. Laser dots swept the hallway. I could hear comms, just clicks and static, coded whispers. We held our breath in the pantry alcove. They weren't just looking for footage. They were hunting witnesses. Rob waited until the first boot crossed the kitchen tile. He didn't hesitate. Elbowed the fuse box, cutting all power. House went black. I launched the emergency drone, an interior scout, into the hallway. Its thermal feed lit up my phone screen. Red silhouettes. All moving in. Rob burst forward. One attacker dropped with a groan, taser to the throat. Another flinched, turned, caught a knee to the ribs and a flashlight to the temple. I dragged their bodies into the side room while Rob locked down the front. But the third one was missing. I saw it on the drone feed. He peeled off toward the garage, toward the crawl space. My chest went tight. I bolted through the side door, hard in my ears. He was halfway in, pulling the hatch open. I dove, tackled him into the washer. He reached for his sidearm. I slammed his hand against the metal lip until he let go. He thrashed, tried to scream, but Rob was already there, zip-tying his wrists and dragging him out. 3 down. The rest were regrouping. We didn't wait. We bailed out through the back gate, slipped through the neighbor's yard, and cut across the street toward the only place they wouldn't expect us to go, House 113. We ducked behind the side fence. The place looked quiet. Too quiet. No vent. No lights. Just the heavy silence of a place where terrible things had happened for far too long. Rob checked the window. No sign of the girl. I pulled up the live drone feed. Still active. The trapdoor in the living room floor open. We'd waited too long. She was gone. But something new blinked on the screen. GPS ping. A second location. Coordinates traced to the old shipping warehouse near the freeway. A known drop zone for missing persons in 3 unsolved cases. She wasn't out yet, but we still had time. The warehouse sat like a rotting skeleton beneath the overpass, Half the roof collapsed, windows shattered, weeds growing through cracked pavement. But the power lines were live. The side entrance was reinforced. Someone had invested in keeping it ugly, but functional. We parked 2 blocks away. No headlights. No phones. Just the drone feed bouncing between heat signatures and signal blackouts. There were 6 bodies moving inside. One on the upper floor. One pacing near the rear. 4 in a cluster near the central loading bay. And one in a separate room. Small. Still. The girl. We moved fast. No hesitation. Rob carried the tactical breacher, steel baton, flashbang, custom vest. I carried the drone controller and a burner phone rigged to upload footage live the second we breached. If we failed, the world would see what we saw. We reached the service door. Locked from inside. Rob cracked it open in under 10 seconds. We slipped in through shadows, past rusted machinery and graffiti that read like warnings. This wasn't just a hideout. It was a transfer station. A place where people stopped being people. A radio crackled down the hallway. Voices. Quick commands. They knew something was off. We found the girl in the second room. Hands zip-tied. Still breathing. Eyes wide with that same silent plea I saw in the drone footage. Help me. Rob cut her loose. She couldn't speak. Her mouth was raw from the gag, but she pointed toward the floor beneath us. Basement. We heard footsteps. Multiple. Fast. I handed her my jacket and whispered one word, run. She bolted toward the exit we came from. Rob covered the hallway with his sidearm. 2 men rounded the corner. One held a blade, the other a taser. They weren't expecting trained resistance. They hit the ground before they could blink. We descended into the basement. Damp air. Rotting stairs. Low ceilings and flickering bulbs that shouldn't have had power. And their cages. 3 of them. All empty. Except for the initials carved into the wall. ERH. Elena Rosehart. My sister. I couldn't breathe. Rob's voice broke through the static in my head. He found a storage crate. Inside, documents. Photos. Ledgers. Lists. Dozens of names. Some crossed out. Others still marked with destinations. Evidence. We bagged everything. Then the explosion hit. The entire warehouse rocked. Flames burst from the west wing. A distraction or a cover-up. The rest of them were trying to flee. We scrambled out through the east exit just as another SUV peeled away from the lot. The girl was gone, but so were the others. Rob cursed. I opened the drone app again. The second unit was still in the air. I tagged the fleeing vehicle. Set it to follow. They wouldn't get far. Not this time. The drone chased the SUV across the outer ring highway, weaving above streetlights and overpasses, staying just out of visual range. The signal held, but barely. Every time they turned, I felt my pulse spike. If they noticed the drone, they'd vanish again, and so would any chance of tracking the network. Rob drove like he was back on the force, every turn calculated, no wasted time. His jaw stayed clenched the entire ride. The girl was gone, but the crate of names still sat in the back seat, and with it, the weight of every person that list had swallowed. The SUV pulled into a gated facility outside town, industrial, fenced, and labeled as a refrigeration distribution center. From the outside, it looked like storage. But inside, something colder. Something far worse. The drone captured 4 figures unloading crates into a side entrance. Not food. People. I uploaded the live feed to our secure node. Rob sent it to his last real contact in the department, Detective Shaw. One of the few still willing to risk her badge when justice got ugly. She called back in seconds. I've been waiting for this. Don't go in until I get there. We waited. Tension thick. My grip on the controller white-knuckled. Inside the facility, movement. A man in a gray suit emerged from the loading bay. Mid-40s. Expensive watch. Eyes cold and empty. Rob stiffened. That's him. That's Lewis Crane. Crane had been a ghost in dozens of trafficking cases. Never charged. Never touched. Always 2 steps removed, hidden behind shell companies and forged paperwork. But now he was on camera. In real time. Holding the door open for others. We had him. Shaw arrived 20 minutes later with an unmarked car and a look that meant she'd brought more than just hope. She handed Rob a vest. No backup. No SWAT. Just us. They couldn't risk tipping him off. We moved in through the maintenance tunnel. Rob breached the sidewall with a silent cutter, while Shaw covered the corridor. I launched the interior drone ahead of us, low, silent, watching every corner. The inside was worse than I imagined. Cells. Not rooms. Beds bolted to the floor. Plastic wristbands on hooks. Surveillance everywhere. And Crane, walking the hall with a clipboard like this was all normal. Like he wasn't trafficking lies. We signaled. Rob and Shaw burst into the main chamber. I followed with a drone, broadcasting everything live. The look on Crane's face, pure arrogance twisted into panic. You don't know who you're messing with, he hissed. Rob didn't flinch. We're not here for who you are. We're here for what you've done. He tried to run. Shaw tackled him before he made it 3 feet. Tough, pinned, helpless. The girls were found within minutes. 4 of them. Malnourished, scared, but alive. One of them, the girl from House 113, ran straight into the corner and cried until her voice cracked. I knelt beside her, told her she was safe now. She didn't speak, just clung to my arm like letting go meant going back. We called it in. Silent alarms. Back up en route. But then Rob found something else. A photo from 10 years ago. My sister. Standing beside Crane and smiling. The photo slipped from Rob's hand and landed face up under the cold fluorescent light. My breath caught. It was her. Elena. Hair tied back, that chipped star necklace she never took off, and a smile that didn't belong to someone in pain. She was standing next to Crane. Not as a victim. As a partner. Couldn't move. Couldn't think. The room blurred around me. Officers calling for medical units. The cries of the rescued girls. The scuff of Crane's shoes as Shaw hauled him outside in cuffs. But I only saw her face. Frozen in time. Standing beside a monster. Rob stared at me, his mouth half open. He'd seen the file. Her name carved in the basement wall. The missing reports. The drone footage that led us here. All of it pointed to a victim. Until now. I picked up the photo and flipped it over. A date. 7 months after she disappeared. That meant she hadn't been taken. She'd stayed. My hands shook as I dug through the crate of ledgers. Names. Transfers. Codes. Then I found her initials again. Not as cargo. As coordinator. I felt something collapse in my chest. My little sister, who vanished on her way home from college. My sister, who left a hole in our family, so deep my father never spoke again. She didn't vanish. She became one of them. But why? The second file caught my eye, one sealed in plastic, marked Asset ERH. I tore it open. Inside, psych evals. Journals. Recordings. Her handwriting. Notes about keeping order, preventing abuse, protecting girls by organizing transport instead of letting them rot in cages. She'd built a system. A warped, horrifying system, but one she believed was saving lives from something even worse. She wasn't just a monster. She thought she was controlling the monsters. My stomach turned. Outside, Crane was loaded into the back of a federal vehicle. Shaw gave a silent nod. The feds were taking over. Every piece of evidence was secured. The warehouse would be swept, stripped, and burned to the ground. But nothing would erase what we'd seen. That night, I sat in my living room. Drone footage still playing silently on loop. The girl from House 113 had been placed in witness protection. Rob said she asked about me. Said she smiled when she saw the news. Crane was charged with 42 counts. And that number was still climbing. I stared at the last video in the encrypted drive, timestamped just weeks before Elena disappeared. She was speaking into the camera, eyes tired, voice calm. If I vanish, don't come looking. Please. I'm doing what I have to do. But I did look. And now I'll never stop. Because for every house with locked doors, for every girl writing numbers on a fogged window, for every monster like Crane, there's someone watching. And they won't look away. So like, share, and subscribe, because sometimes the only weapon we have left is the truth.